Hello, welcome to the Health In Show, an affiliate program of Homeopathy World Community. You've come to the right place to tune in and participate with your comments and questions. Love is the greatest healer of all, but sometimes, in order to change our emotions, we must take action in other spheres of our lives. We speak with experts in alternative and complementary health fields and hope you will benefit in some small or great way. Remember, you are wherever your thoughts are. Make sure your thoughts are where you want to be.
Welcome, everyone. We are live on the Health In Show, an affiliate program of Homeopathy World Community, with our new co-host, Phyllis Georgic of Pennsylvania, homeopath. Dr. Deepak Sharma is having computer troubles and is not going to tune in, but he will be back with us in the future. I want to wish everyone a good day and a good evening. When I think about having a good thought, that was something that came into my mind this morning as I woke up. When you roll over in the bed and get out of bed, are you thinking something positive? Are you thinking the best that could possibly happen in this world? Are you going to be the consciousness and energy that is going to move that positivity and possibility forward? We are, and limiting the amount of negative news, the amount of messages that make you feel a little bit of hopelessness or despair. That is my message for you today, to keep smiling and put on those rosy glasses once in a while. And Phyllis, I'm so thrilled to see you with the breeze behind you, and hopefully the weather is a little cooler. And welcoming,
yes, it is. Thank you.
And welcoming all of our guests. We have lots of folks in the chat today. You may call in to 919-518-9773 if you're in the United States, or via Skype at Computers 2K Voice. Okay, so we're ready to go, and our topic is, yes, we do have faith in homeopathy. Do you have a kind of a intro on that, Phyllis? Something that I think it's the opposite of despair, is hope and faith. What do you think?
Well, basically, I have faith in homeopathy because I've seen it work. If it didn't work, I don't think I'd have any faith in it. Basically, many people have given up their faith in many allopathic treatments because it doesn't work. I know I did early on. I mean, I got involved with homeopathy because my son was autistic, and the medical community had nothing to offer. They had no hope for me, for my child. Mm-hmm. They just told me that's the way he's going to be, and I didn't believe that. So I continued to search until one day I found homeopathy.
Right. So you did tie together again that concept of hope, that things will improve no matter what the situation, no matter how grim it looks, or how long you have suffered, or whether it is an intense acute situation, an allergic reaction possibly, or something that you've been dealing with for so many years that you kind of ignore it and don't even realize that you're producing symptoms. So on Homeopathy World Community, on that today's announcement page, if you click the banner to the Health In group, you will find a whole line of research studies that have been published in PubMed, in the medical journals, connecting homeopathy and the benefits of using homeopathy. So allergies using homeopathy, from allergic rhinitis to hay fever to skin conditions, eczema. And wherever you go, you're going to see the connection of allergies and asthma together, because that's our respiratory system, and one is tied to the other. And so when you get an allergic reaction and all of this production of discharges occurs, it causes congestion in the lungs. Do you want to add to that, Phyllis?
Well, basically, it doesn't cause congestion. What it's doing is trying to surround the allergen with some sort of mucosa in order to to eject it. And of course, it's going to build up enough mucus in the sinus cavities that you're going to eventually either cough it up because it's dripping down the back of your throat, or you're going to sneeze it out.
So it's your body's way of elimination.
Certainly. It's your histamine reaction. It's your kidneys, your adrenals sending out the cortisone and the histamine in order to, like I said, surround this allergen, this foreign material, and attempting to build up a barrier around it. That's where the mucus comes in. So all of these Sudafed and Actifed and basic allopathic medications that stop the mucus production actually drives the allergen or the difficulty into the lungs and throat and, of course, into the tonsils, because the lymphatic system is, again, trying to block out that foreign material. So what we do in homeopathy is we boost the immune system in the symptom picture that the immune system is attempting to create in order to solve its own problems. And that's what we as homeopaths do. We find remedies that fit those symptom pictures so that indeed the body's reactivity can be supported rather than thwarted.
Excellent. And we will be discussing a number of the remedies, but let's look at the broad picture and see just how widespread this problem of allergic reactions are. With a world population of 7 billion plus over 100 million in the world, they say that 30 to 40% of the world population have problems with allergies. And that's talking about over 2,130,000,000 people worldwide, all the way up to almost 3 billion people. So this is really an important issue, and the medical community is delving into it. They want to train more clinicians how to approach this problem. Of course, they were going to say that there is no cure. That is one of the major things. There is a steady increase in this prevalence of allergic diseases globally, with 30-40% world population. A high proportion of this increase is in young people. The young population reaches all the way to adulthood, and the burden of allergic disease is expected to increase more and more. Complex allergies involving polysensitization and multiple organ involvement are also increasing. So it's not just sneezing, dripping, and a runny nose and watery eyes and conjunctivitis and things like that, but it does go into a number of the organs like the skin and the lungs. A high morbidity placing a higher demand on healthcare delivery services. It is forecast that the allergic problems will increase further, caused by, guess what, the environment, air pollution, and global climate change, ambient temperature increase. So we're going to see allergic rhinitis, allergic conjunctivitis, asthma, atopic eczema, hives, food allergies. Of course, we're changing our foods and making them kind of foreign to the body. Anaphylaxis, urticaria, which is the rashes, outbreaks, hives, and such on the skin, angioedema, allergies to drugs and biological agents. People even have exercise-induced triggers to bronchospasms. That means it's hard for them to get out and move their body. Rhinitis and urticaria, angioedema I mentioned, and think about allergies to insects that are out there, and they're proliferating too because of the change in climate. It says that untreated chronic urticaria has a severe impact on quality of life and impairs productivity up to 30%, which means people have trouble getting up and going to school or going to work. So it's really affecting total lifestyle. As for some of the triggers, we're looking at pollens, molds, grasses, house dust, sugar, wheat, dairy, think about eggs, food additives, salicylates, and chemicals, not just outside, but in the home, offices, and our environment. So we end up with hay fever, eczema, skin disorders, even irritable bowel syndrome. in addition to the asthma. So you can see it's really huge, and we couldn't possibly talk about all that in 1 hour. So we're going to focus in on the allergic rhinitis and hay fever today. And Phyllis, you were just telling me something about who was most likely to get any kind of allergies in past history.
Yeah, in the past history, people who had most allergies were people who were very affluent. These are people who never went out into the woods. They never lived in that type of environment. Certainly, a farmer would never be able to be a farmer if he had hay fever. So hay fever is a product, and all of these allergies is a product of our industrial world, of our chemicals, and of our vaccinations. Egg sensitivity, they use eggs to culture vaccines on. The various kinds of allergic reactions to antibiotics. Basically, antibiotics are yeast. People are allergic to yeast. We eat more and more bread products. Nowadays, the yeast that we have in our environment, and for instance, the yeast that if you even make homemade bread, whether you get Red Star yeast or Fleischmann's yeast or whatever yeast, or the yeast that you get from some organic bread, or some bread made at a bake shop, or some commercially made bread, it's all the same yeast. In the past, we would have yeasts that were different according to the seasons because we get yeast from pollens from flowers. So as the flowers would go from season to season, the pollens would change. And there were one time were noted 375, I think, different yeasts that were used throughout the world.
What about something like sourdough bread? Is that different?
Yes, it is different because culture is made from the culture before. It's made from sour milk. So it's kind of like made from yogurt. It's like your yogurt is continually made from yogurt. The mother continues to go along. Where the pollens were the yeast, and different beers were made by different people. So that would bring in different grain qualities and different yeasts as well.
Diversity.
Right, diversity. Now we have all monos. Everything is a monocrop. We are trying to GMO or genetically modify foods to be one kind of food. And this has caused, for instance, the banana production. I was told that bananas in the next 25 or 30 years will not even be in existence because what they had done is they got rid of all of the smaller banana producing trees for these larger bananas. And if I remember as a child, bananas I used to be able to eat, I can't eat bananas today. They're the wrong bananas, evidently. They have these little fingerling bananas because people appreciate them as a gourmet type thing. But they really have taken and monocropped almost everything, plus the fact that your body is trying to reject all of the materials and the chemicals and the adjuvants or glues that are in vaccinations. They put formaldehyde as well into these vaccines in order to make them not be able to be rejected by the immune system. So we're thwarting the efforts of the immune system. Our allergy or our allergic reaction to things is our savior. It is the way our bodies say, this is a poison to me. I need to surround it with liquid. I need to surround it with mucus in order to be able to
isolate it.
Not only isolate it, but also to dilute it.
And that's the edema reaction.
Correct. And that's but many people go into total anaphylactic shock. And so it closes up their throats, their eyes, and then they can't breathe. And that's where we come up with the remedy APIS. APIS deals with that, with the anaphylactic shock. Homeopathy, carbolic acid, carbolicum acidum, is another remedy that deals with total anaphylactic shock. But I have had many clients who've had horrible B reactions, people who are in construction, who actually can't work for 3-4 days and they're on steroids and it's not working. And they start APIS in a 30C or a 200C in water or a 2LM or a 3LM. And within hours, their reactions are, they're flushing out the toxin.
And what was the cause, did you say, or do you know the cause of these people who in the construction work?
Evidently, there are certain people who are overreactive to bee stings.
Oh, they were getting a bee sting.
Or a bee sting, or a so they in construction, lots of times you will come upon people who have these problems where they have to be off work for a long time because they're working around the environment. And of course, bees and wasps like to go into wood in between houses, in between slats of houses. And these construction workers are either taking this down or putting this up or whatever. And boom, you get bees that just swarm you.
It's true.
And I know farmers, bald-faced hornets love to burrow into the ground. There are lots of times a farmer will be out in a field just running his tractor, whether that's mowing hay or just clearing out an area or whatever, and he'll come upon it. He won't even know that there's a nest there that he's covered, and he will start getting stung, and it feels like stones are hitting them in the head and around the face and whatever, and it can be very dangerous. So, like I said, these are the reactions that we're having are normal reactions our bodies need to help us to survive. Sometimes those reactions become not overdone, but overextended to the point where the reaction is so quick that it actually swells up the airwave. And
depends on the kind.
And so the person cannot breathe. But
okay, so that therefore we have a couple of homeopathic remedies that address this allergic reaction, which is quite intense and severe. It happens immediately, acutely, and even going to anaphylactic shock. For some people, that's why they keep epinephrine pens with them, because they know that they're typically allergic. So I usually think of Apis mellifica as the natural Benadryl antihistamine. So,
right.
And you mentioned carbolic acid as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So those are good to have in an emergency kit if you do have one. We have bunches of conversations on the chat today about sourdough and is it not a yogurt per se, except that the milk has been sitting out in the open air. She wonders, this is Kathy, if this may be what you're talking about as far as natural yeast from the local flower pollens. She puts it outside, I think.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
That is what is giving her the diversity that's necessary.
Okay.
Putting that mother outside and allowing pollen to fall into it. That is exactly the way you get a better.
And what about the wheat? Because wheat allergy seems to be prevalent, and celiac disease and gluten intolerance, and all of these things are involved with it. I'm kind of taking us away from the hay fever.
Well, not really.
No? Okay.
The gluten intolerance, again, is because vaccines have glue in them, and the glues are made with yeast, and the yeast is also on the wheat. So that's where everybody gets these wheat intolerances. It's not because they're intolerant really to grain. They're intolerant to the hybridized wheat as well as the yeast that is in those hybridized yeasts, because the yeast is always the same. And that's the same. I mean, they give you an antibiotic, a triple antibiotic in each vaccination. So this becomes part of your body's reactivity attempting to get yeast out of your system. Let's look at this in a real normal context. If you eat a tomato, you're digesting it, it's going through your liver, and your liver is pulling out whatever toxins. If you inject the tomato into your skin, you're going to have a reaction to it. Your skin is not supposed to have tomato put in it, and nor is it supposed to have yeast put in it, or wheat put in it,
or peanut oil.
Or peanut oil, or eggs. See, so your body is really doing its work, its job, and the allopathic community is more often making up medications to stop your body's normal activity, and this is what allows cancers to grow and asthma to take hold, and people to become sufferers of celiac disease.
Right. So this is really interesting because all of these combinations of ingredients, the basic philosophy behind vaccinations was very comparable, similar to the homeopathic principles of likes cures likes and a minimum dose.
Right.
So,
and Samuel Hahnemann actually was a contemporary of Edward Jenner and thought his idea of smallpox vaccine was fabulous. He just didn't recognize where it was going to end up going and how severely intolerant people were going to be to the pus of a cow, cowpox, as well as their DNA being put into a human being. So that's basically how smallpox were given to me as a child and probably to you as a child. They don't give smallpox vaccines out anymore, but what they would do is they had smallpox pus on the end of a shard of glass, and that shard of glass was taken out of a plastic or some sort of a containment unit and then was scratched on your arm. And that is where the smallpox pock would grow. And that's why we have that scar on our arms or on the back of our arms.
And just to note, Sue Young, who is the homeopathic historian, well known, had found some words from, I think it was Jenner, who said that he realized it was, I think, who was the other person who was working in the same time as Jenner?
Louis Pasteur.
Pasteur. Okay, it was Pasteur, I think, who said that it was the attenuated vaccine, the attenuated disease that really was the way to safely administer any kind of vaccination. So he really admitted that.
Right. He also admitted that his germ theory didn't work either, that people became sick because they were not fed well or they were ill in other ways. And so that is definitely never brought to light, and especially in this day and age where we're recognizing that raw milk is really helpful for people. It takes away your allergies and your celiac disease. My son was actually told that he had, this was a while back, that he had Crohn's disease, and his doctor said to him, you can't drink milk, but if you could find raw milk, you could drink that, and that would actually help your Crohn's disease, but good luck trying to find some raw milk. So now in Pennsylvania, we are allowed to have raw milk, and that is available. And I know many people, including my own children, who use this raw milk, get it from a dairy up the road from them, and make it into, my daughter-in-law makes it into yogurt.
And do you have any allergies in your family? Because in the documents that I was reading, allergies have a genetic component. They say if only one parent has allergies of any type, chances are 1 in 3 that each child will have an allergy. If both parents have allergies, it is more likely that 7 in 10 that their children will have allergies. And if we're creating generations that are inoculated with these components, hypersensitizing our immune system to these different types of substances that are everywhere, then we're creating whole generations that are going to have allergies. Yes, we are.
Wouldn't it have been wonderful if we were creating a whole generation of 4 generations of people being healed with homeopathy, and none of these other things were happening? I think that a lot of our miasms would have been removed by now, instead of all of the continuous problem that we see, the obesity. The more and more children are retarded. We have more ADHD problems. We have more issues with learning disabilities and behavioral problems. And I have no doubt that it has to do with the fact that our food has changed. There are less people vaccinated. There are more people vaccinating. There are less people using breast milk as as children's defense systems, which is our natural defense system. And we have healthier cats, dogs, and horses. than we have human beings.
They're having problems in the animal world as well. I just
because they vaccinate.
Yes, they vaccinate, and there's controversy about that. I was just reading in the New York Times about China how the mothers are bringing in formula milk, powdered milk from all different countries, and they have created a population of how many people live in China?
A lot.
A lot, and all of them have been marketed to feed their children formula milk instead of breast milk. So there's a whole nation of people who are now having lots of problems with their health, besides their environmental pollution problems, which is major. So let's talk a little bit more about what remedies we would use for allergic rhinitis, because we could certainly talk about the gut and allergies. There's whole new...
And there are some remedies that actually deal with the gut and as well as the allergies.
Hay fever.
Well, right, like Nux vomica and pulsatilla.
So we're going to really see a lot of relationship between the gut and our other kind of immune responses.
Right, the concomitant symptoms are going to be within those areas, such as with, for instance, causticum. A lot of allergic reaction comes with skin rashes from chemicals that are on the skin or in the environment, and they would have numbness and neuralgic pains in face or limbs, and there would also be issues with bladder weakness. So here you've got a direct correlation with the skin and the kidneys.
Okay.
This might cause and we do know that we use causticum often for bladder infections. Sometimes these bladder infections are caused by either fluoride or chlorine in water or the uses of these things in our environment. I noticed in my younger days when I was nursing my children, I was drinking tap water. I didn't recognize that the tap water was loaded with the chlorine, and I should not have been doing that. So I was drinking the tap water. I was also washing diapers, and I was using a type of automatic dishwashing powder in very small amount, but I was using that to soak the baby's diapers in. And I wanted my diapers to be clean. I wanted to be a good mother. So, of course, I was using a lot of chlorine. And it ended up causing me such an allergic reaction that my breasts actually were having eruptions upon them. And it was so bad, I was having ulcers on my nipples, and I was breastfeeding. So I quickly learned about causticum.
Okay, so you were doing your homeopathy way back then.
Oh, I've been doing homeopathy for almost 30 years.
Okay, and any other remedy that we think of? Well, we were talking a little bit about sabadilla or sabadia, learning how to pronounce this beautiful plant and its seeds.
Yes, sabadilla seeds.
I don't have a photograph of it, but it is grown. It's a plant grown in Mexico, Venezuela, Guatemala, and the United States, and we use the seeds as the homeopathic remedy. It was first described in the 16th century, used almost exclusively for destroying lice and killing intestinal worms. Sabadilla produces symptoms similar to those of a cold or hay fever, which it is used to treat homeopathically. It acts on the mucous membranes of the nose and tear glands, and is used to treat the colds and hay fever with spasmodic sneezing, runny nose, itchy nose, tingling in the soft palate, and burning, watery eyes with a splitting headache across the eyes. So if anyone has felt this during probably when the goldenrod is out, or you feel a dry sore throat and swallowing is painful, this says hot drinks are soothing, and so you can
Which is odd, which is very odd when you have an allergic reaction that hot. What is the amazing part of sabadilla, or sabadia, which I have used several times in my homeopathic practice, is when an individual has either skin irritations or rashes, blue circles under their eyes. They also may have a dry cough with this cracking sound in their jaw when they open their jaw and sneeze. They'll hear a cracking, but they also have aversion to garlic.
Oh.
Not too many symptom pictures have aversion to garlic. And these people will tell you, I hate garlic.
Wow.
I can't stand the smell of it. I can't stand the taste of it. I eat none of it. And truthfully, garlic would be a wonderful saving grace for them because it would change their whole attitude because it's a natural antibiotic. It's a natural fungal. Many of the reactions that we have allergically are due to the fact that the fungus is among us. And so as a result, this fungus is actually being proliferated through these allergic reactions. And this is the reason why we have skin problems. This is fungus. So many times.
I wanted to interject. What if you love garlic, but it doesn't love you?
That's a whole different story. That's different. That's a whole different thing. And most of the time, people will love garlic and they will end up having gastrointestinal problems or gas from it. If you eat things like fennel seeds or fennel plant, this will help you to digest it. It's because you're not digesting it properly. But nonetheless, what I wanted to go on to was that the allergic reactions, you were talking about allergic reactions of family members and various things. I actually have an allergy to penicillin.
Okay. So you do have a factor. But
Right.
It's to a drug.
But it's yeast.
Yep. Keep going back to that.
Yes,
that seems to be a major problem. And is it that our intestinal tract is unable to digest or work with yeast? We have to have a diverse probiotic flora in there. So
let's go back to how are they making the antibiotics? They're using the same yeast that we're using to make bread, and the same yeast that we're making beer with, and the same yeast that grows in your house, that is mold in your walls. Okay, let's look at old houses that used wheat paste to put up wallpaper. What kind of yeast do you think that house is making?
That's wheat paste. I know because I've done that. Oh, I've really ruined my old home by doing that. I covered all the walls with wallpaper.
Right.
Okay.
So, and this is the problem that people are having in their workplaces. They also live in buildings that have no windows that open because they have air conditioning or environmental control. You know, how many times have you walked into a large store like a Walmart in the middle of April when all of a sudden you've had like a horrible heat wave and they still have their heater running and they can't even open up windows to allow any of the outside breezes to blow through. This is the problem. People have used products in their environment to build. They use pressure-treated wood. They use womanized wood that's supposed to be made so that animals, ants,
arsenic in the treated wood to prevent rotting.
Right, and I recall that my father actually was building a house. Mother and father were building their house, and they had Celotex on the exterior of the house. And my father went and sprayed some sort of pesticide on the Celotex because he wanted to prevent termites and ants from coming into the house. And then, and this was on the house for a very, very, very long time. And then after about 4 years, he decided to put bricks on the exterior of the house. They didn't like the aluminum siding. So my father got some bricks, and he started to brick the house very slowly. And my father finished bricking the house. My mother became an asthmatic, and she's classically arsenicum, having her most problems between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. in the morning, when my father would take her in because she was like hiding behind furniture and, can't breathe. I can't breathe. Somebody's going to get me. The same fear factors that arsenicums are classic in the materia medica for having. And he would, of course, put her in the car, take her to the emergency room. Well, by the time someone would see her, it'd be about 2:30, 3 o'clock. And,
She's
the
better.
asthma had all cleared up. And so they thought my mother was having a nervous breakdown.
It's all in your head.
It's all in your head. So they were wanting to give her some sort of psychotropic medication. You know, she needed Valium. She needed something of that nature. And this started her on the road to a very distressed end of her life because of the medications that they had placed her on. But yeah, my father just thought that my mother, and my sister stayed with her and thought that my mother was just putting this on. And my mother was not a drama queen by any stretch of the imagination. She never did anything like that. And my sister was just telling me, and I told her what remedy to take.
She told her.
And she refused to take it. My father said this is not approved by the doctor. Mm-hmm. And so...
so your mom, did she take it then?
No.
She didn't?
No.
Okay, well, we're going to have to wait for the rest of that story. Let's talk a little bit more about arsenicum album, which we know is the first remedy for food poisoning, for vomiting and diarrhea that could be projectile vomiting. Fear is one of the biggest indications for this remedy, and the symptoms always seem to begin around midnight. Cinderella has to run home, I guess. All symptoms are worse from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m., which you just told us an actual story. And the breathing difficulties can run into not just the allergic reactions, but into asthma. It's a very asthmatic remedy, or any kind of respiratory ailments that have those two keynotes of the fear and the midnight time hour.
Right. And they also have reactions in there. They'll either burp, or they have to pass gas and they feel better afterwards.
Okay.
Or they will have diarrhea. They will have spontaneous diarrhea, and that's also part of the arsenic picture. But again, what I was leading to is the fact that in the workplaces, we've got all of these materials that they bring into these new buildings. And these new buildings have recycled plastic for their rug material.
Pressed wood.
Pressed
wood with glue.
Right. Mm-hmm. And they've got these backings that are foam rubber that are made from these various things. And if you look at any of this particle board that they use, these shavings of wood that they turn into 4x8 pieces that are cheaper than plywood. This is all put together with glues that are made with arsenic and formaldehyde. And no wonder we're allergic
so if
to
that
these
permeates into the into the air in the home, what is a person to do? Because these are the building materials, and we must live with what we have. So
we need to open up windows and allow breezes to blow through.
Spring cleaning.
Right. I mean, wasn't Hahnemann very, very adamant about open up the windows where the patient is and don't confine them in their tomb before they die? Mm-hmm. You know, open up the windows, get rid of the cut flowers. You know, people like to have all this other stuff in their house. They love all these different scents.
So we shouldn't have cut flowers in the house?
Not if you're going to keep it. Cut flowers take away oxygen from you. That was one of the reasons why Hahnemann wanted them out. Many times the cut flowers were actually homeopathic remedies as well. So he was afraid that they were going to be antidoting the remedies or being another factor of vibration in your life. So there were no cut flowers permitted. That's really, that's lunacy. To have cut flowers around in your house. It's taking your oxygen away from you. You want live flowers and live plants growing in your environment.
Oh, so if you have a potted plant, it's okay?
Certainly, and you need the windows to be open. Okay. You want to have a lot of fresh air blowing through all of the time. This living in these controlled environments all the time is what's causing problems. It also grows yeast. Remember, what was it called? The American Legion, what was it?
The Legionnaire's disease.
Legionnaire's disease. It was all caused because of the confinement in the building, because the air conditioning system was growing mold, yeast.
So you need to have them
and all
out.
those old Legionnaires were getting every vaccination that they were supposed to get, and so were their wives, because they were all veterans, and they were going to veterans hospitals, and they were getting their vaccinations. So they were just being bombarded by yeasts. and various other chemicals that are in these environments causing all of these problems.
And as a side note, I understand that you're not supposed to use get ice from ice machines or order ice in the restaurants because those machines are never cleaned out and they're full of bacteria.
That's right. If you wash Restaurant Impossible or whatever he calls it, you'll see that there many times restaurants have all of these. One of the reasons why people like to use lime or lemon in their water is to counteract that, because that vitamin C will counteract that. But any water that you drink or ice that you drink at any restaurant, I mean, basically, if you watch any of these Restaurant Impossible shows, or Ramsay's kitchen or restaurant nightmares or whatever, you'd never eat out in any restaurant ever.
We have about 15 minutes. Let's run through a couple of more of those homeopathic remedies for allergic symptoms of hay fever and allergic rhinitis. We have mentioned Apis mellifica already for the bee stings, Arsenicum album for fear and worse at midnight, Causticum for chemical skin rashes, edema, paralysis, burns. So if you burn yourself on the stove, or if you're out in the sun, an allergic reaction to the sun, too much sunlight, and you get a burn, I would usually take a dose of Causticum. And last week we did a full session on Ferrum phosphoricum, another homeopathic cell, and you mentioned earlier at the show Nux vomica as connection between the gut and in autoimmune allergy. And
right.
you want to talk a little bit more about that one?
That's mostly chemical allergies. People who are become their noses start to run as soon as they smell road construction tar, or somebody has resealed their asphalt driveways, and immediately they have head congestion and headache, and their nose is running clear and it's burning, lacrimatation from their eyes. They become upset emotionally. These are all nux vomica symptoms. They'll have stomach upsets as well.
Overeating, feeling too full, indigestion after a big meal, or smoking too many cigarettes, or possibly being in a room that people are smoking in, secondhand smoke, overindulgence in alcoholic.
They're very reactive to cigarette smoke. They don't like the smell of cigarette smoke, and so they can smell it when other people aren't smelling it.
Are nux vomica smokers? Do they smoke?
They will sometimes smoke in order not to smell the other stale smoke around.
Interesting.
So they'll get, yes, it's very interesting.
It's sort of like a camouflage, covering it up by being part of it.
Right. Burning in.
What about indulgence in too much alcoholic beverages? That is a key thing for nux vomica, or even headaches after getting drunk, right? We're not supposed to tell the teens that, but
well, the whole point of it is that bryonia is a bigger remedy for hangovers, because it's made of hops, and that's what's in the beer is hops.
Okay, so bryonia, which is worse on movement, would be a good one. Right.
They can't shake their head, they can't move, they can't get up, their eyes hurt, their hair hurts. That kind of thing.
Very good. I bet most people think of nux vomica when you're indicating bryonia for that particular issue of headache or in symptoms after too much drinking. One of the little keynotes for nux vomica is that stuffy nose on one side, and when that opens up, the other one
very good
stuffs up, and that change. Isn't there like a time of day for nux, or a time of night or day for nux vomica when the congestion is worse? I thought there was.
I've used nux vomica most of my homeopathic career for myself, and there's really no specific time that's worse or better. And I think it's listed between 5 and 7 in the evening, which is supper time. Mm-hmm. But I've not noticed that. I was going on a different vein. Another remedy for hay fever that was proven by it was a remedy proven by Hahnemann was sarsaparilla or sarsaparilla, wild licorice. This was a big remedy back in Hahnemann's day because people were over poisoned by mercury. We had the quack salvers who were giving out mercury for everything, believing mercury was the cure for all disease and all problems, and they were making people sick, and they were poisoning them. They were losing their teeth. But this is a big remedy. A lot of people have allergies, and they know that they're going to have an allergic reaction, or they're having my allergies are returning because my jaw hurts. And this is a remedy that I've heard several people say that, and they have a metallic taste in their mouth, and they'll say, my jaw hurts. This is the remedy that I would give them, sarsaparilla.
Okay. I think this is a bladder remedy too. Is that
yes?
Correct? Yes, it is for incontinence.
Mm-hmm. And it is it's an antisoric, antisyphilitic, and it's an antipsychotic remedy. So it really covers a lot of area. It's also worse from motion.
Oh, like bryonia.
But it's also worse from sitting, like Rhus tox. So when Rhus tox and bryonia don't work, think of sarsaparilla.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. They don't like tight clothing, and they don't like touch or pressure like bryonia.
Okay, so in the chat, we've got whole bunches of good suggestions. Giza is saying for hay fever, loofah operculata was good to be used before vaccinations. And Nux vomica, if there is a poison as a background, for example, meals or agents. Dr. Kulbashan from India says homeopathic medicines treat the symptoms of allergies without causing side effects and are designed to stimulate the body's immune resources to overcome infection. And so we want to definitely point that out, that you're not going to have the side effects that, like drowsiness, if you take Benadryl or something like that. Sleep, it's not going to put you to sleep. You still can drive. Other kinds of long-term side effects like rebound. If you take those sprays up your nose to dry up the dirty nose and whatnot, if you do that for too long, you're going to get the rebound of double the amount of swelling in the nasal passages.
Or it's going to drive it from your nasal passages into your ear, and you're going to end up with an ear infection. We don't have little holes in our ears, let that pus out of our ears. I mean, the holes that we have are our noses and our mouths. That's where the pus is supposed to drain out. So that's where I was saying about the Sudafed and the Actifed. They love to take these products and tell you that it's going to dry it up for you, but it's drying it up, and now it's making it to be like thick glue that's glued to your sinuses and glued to your esophagus, glued to your lungs. Loads of times people will come to me with asthmatic problems, and they've taken so many steroids that dry up this mucosa and these Actifeds and Sudafeds and Claritin and whatever, and they start to cough up like hard pieces of what look like shellac.
Is that what people call clunkers?
Yes, clunkers are actually that, yes, but these are normally clunkers are in your nose.
Right.
But
okay.
And that's a K-like bichromicum symptom. But they will actually cough up large globules of gooey stuff that's around these thick pieces of what look like peeled shellac. And this is only mucus that has just dried up, and now it's gluing your alveoli and your lungs shut. That's the reason why you have the asthma. The more and more you do this, the more and more you're going to glue yourself shut. And then these people have things like idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, and they wonder why. I mean, idiopathic, we don't know why. Pulmonary, your lungs, fibrosis, your lungs are now hard, and we don't know why.
We don't know why, but don't put together the fact that you were taking any kind of allergic reaction drugs.
Right. It should be called iatrogenic pulmonary fibrosis and not idiopathic. They just call it idiopathic because they don't want to admit that it was caused. There's a cause from the medication.
This is a perfect segue for me to say that all of our shows on Health In and Homeopathy World Community are entertaining, educational, informative, and if you need to see a healthcare provider. We're not giving you advice of what to do, just to educate you. And all of the homeopathic remedies that are available over the counter are up to you to investigate and get knowledgeable, take a class and learn a lot more so that you know what to do for yourself. I believe in health freedom.
And open up a study group in your area.
Good
be a study
idea.
group leader and be a homeopathic study group leader and learn the remedies from the Materia Medica. That is what I did. I studied Borki's Materia Medica for 4 years.
Perfect.
Before I went to any homeopathic classes or went to any homeopathic study groups, I learned my remedies. And I started, and of course, I was 4 years into treating myself and my children, and recognized that what we're giving you is information on individual remedies here. That doesn't mean you don't need to go to find a qualified homeopath to take your case, because you need intercurrent remedies. You also need to find what a fundamental remedy is, as well as what remedy you might need for your acutes, as well as dealing with your miasmatic situation. If you don't deal with your miasms, you're just going to go round and round in circles like they do with the allopaths.
And there is a National Center for Homeopathy if you're in the United States or internationally, which you can join and receive a beautiful journal. And they have study groups everywhere that you are. And hopefully you will either find one or make one. How about Nature Muriaticum for that watery, drippy kind of, is it burny kind of
Yes,
discharge?
sometimes it can be burny, but the thing of it is that the discharge basically might be liquid water at first, but when it gets into its more problematic state, it gets kind of slimy and it has like little white streaks in it, like the whites from an egg.
Right.
And that's why we call it that egg white look to it, the raw egg whites. And that's my keynote of that. These people tend to also have fears of robbers. So they're always worried that somebody's going to rob them. Or they're always locking their doors, walking around the house, locking their doors.
I thought that was arsenicum album. Did I mess up?
No, that's a symptom there also, and so is it a symptom of lachesis.
Okay,
but,
3 of them.
Mm-hmm. Sorry. They also have problems with heart palpitations. So this Natrum muriaticum is a big remedy to lower blood pressure. So many of these people who also have these allergies, and I've seen many of them, also have high blood pressure.
Yes.
So this actually lowers their blood pressure, but these people will actually have fits of sneezing. So when they start to have their allergies, they know that their allergy is coming on because they'll have these fits of sneezing.
Would we look this up as a paroxysm? Is that what it's medically called?
Right. That's what it would be in the homeopathic materia or in the repertoires.
So that
in the
they're
old
just
fashioned.
hachoo, and
right. 7, 8 times. I sneeze all the time. Sneeze, just chew it. Yes.
Yeah. And they love salt. They salt their food extremely, and they will even eat salt. They'll dip their finger in the salt, and
right.
pretzels, things like that.
Yeah.
Potato chips, crunchy, and we all know that homeopathically, Nature Muriaticum is one of the best chronic grief remedies for loss.
Right. These are people who can't cry.
So
they will not cry.
Salty
they don't want
tears.
Right. Very salty tears. They don't want to cry. They are very stoic. They're the salty dog who is the captain of the ship who goes from port to port and really doesn't have a loved one, or if he misses his loved ones all the time because he's always on the salty sea, which is more his wife than his wife could be.
I like that poetry. So we are coming to the end of today's show. We've covered unbelievably in all of the storytelling. Allium cepa, we missed out on antimonium tart, which is a big one. We could talk about that really for the lungs. Apis mellifica, arsenicum album causticum. We skipped euphrasia. We'll do that another time. Ferrum phos from last week. Nature muriaticum, nux vomica, and nux vomica's sister, pulsatilla.
Yes.
Rhus toxicondron. We didn't talk about that, did we?
No, and basically any allergic reaction where you have itchy rashes on your skin, that's the first one I always try.
First one for like poison ivy, and you have to have worse in humid weather. Right. That's another thing. Sabadilla or Sabadia for that hay fever on worms, lice. We skipped sanguinaria and sarsaparilla. You got that one in the wild licorice. And there's about 3 more. This is a really unusual request. It's not even a chat message and it's not a call. And this is a handwritten note handed to me that says, "What is your opinion of drinking distilled water?"
Oh, I drink distilled water all the time, and that's actually the only water I will drink. Distilled water only will not leach out any organic material from your body. It will only take out from you those things that are inorganic, that are just the same way that it's going to wash your clothing and bring about a lot of ability to penetrate the cloth without taking the cloth away. Many times people don't recognize that if you had nice soft water, you wouldn't need a whole lot of detergent to wash your clothing. So if you used rainwater, you would actually clean your clothes better. And basically what distilled water is cleaning out your system, hydrating you without taking out any essential minerals that you need. I've been drinking distilled water for close to 30 years, and it's actually was my reasoning to stop drinking when I took that causticum because I was breastfeeding and having those problems with that eruption. I recognized that the only water that I really liked to drink that really tasted good was distilled water, so that's all I drink, distilled water.
I hope that answers your question. And we also have one more question on the chat is, what about that study group? So you can go to www.homeopathic.org to reach the National Center for Homeopathy and become a member. And you'll have a tremendous resource of lots and lots of articles, whole community. There's an annual convention, which is going to be in California this year. I don't know if I'm going to make it. And they have study groups just about everywhere. There are homeopaths.
And you get a newsletter, I think, 11 times a year. I think the July and August one is combined. It used to be.
Mm-hmm. It's an actual magazine. It's an official magazine. It's a gorgeous magazine. Yep.
I've saved all my old issues. I haven't been a member for many years, but I've saved all my old issues. It has very, very good information in it.
Okay, so Dr. K is asking, he's already a member. So if you wish, you can start your own study group for just general people in the community who want to learn more and help their family and help themselves and spread the word. And that's the whole purpose of the show, is to inform people that they can become self-empowered. They can learn about their immune system. They can improve their lifestyle. They can ask us questions. And I guess, Phyllis, you're the guru here. And, she's got so much experience and life stories that enliven our discussion. And there are people who do want to join these study groups. Next week, because we're run out of time, next week we're going to have the famous Amy Lansky. And I did post on...
Oh, great.
Yeah. I posted it on Homeopathy World Community. If you go to the Health In section, that is the groups, Health In Discussions, and you will see there, it's called Resonance, the secret behind homeopathy and active consciousness. So not only is
that's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah, she's into a whole new ballgame here. She is. She's famous for curing her own son from autism after vaccinations,
right.
And has written a most popular book called The Impossible Cure.
Right.
And she has just
Boy Max.
come out with a brand new book called Active Consciousness, Awakening the Power Within. And you're going to probably hear some excerpts and talk about synchronicity and awareness, consciousness. And what are you synced up to, Amnon, today? He's so quiet.
I'm soaking.
You're soaking it in. Bathe in this beautiful sunshine of education. Okay.
I gotta say that when Phyllis talks, she talks to the common person. I mean, it's practical, and it's you learn from it. It's not some woo up there. It's hey, this is what it is.
Yeah, everyone actually would like to come when I was doing classes, they enjoyed it. I had some doctors in my classes that said I made anatomy seem fun.
Great. Well, we love having you, and hopefully Dr. Sharma will be able to return next week. So we're just sending out waves of awareness, lots of love. Upcoming next is Marilyn Shannon, Breaking Free at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Tune in. She's going to have some great guests. And on Sunday night, we have, what do we have? Carrie talking about Psychic Cafe for those people who love to get into that stuff. And do we have any other? Yeah, we're gonna hear about more. So thank you to Amnon for being our fantastic producer for our shows and getting things up and running. Okay, everyone, send us comments and feedback how you like our shows.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you. See you. Bye.